All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Stream Kicks with your boys, Mike Laxton and Daniel Rashane.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Looking forward to today's episode. Doing something a little bit different, covering a movie that honestly I probably would not have watched if not for this podcast. And Daniel kind of talked a little bit about that last time at the end of our last podcast. That we want people to try different things. So today we're going to be talking about the movie 13 Assassins, 2010 film, Japanese. So again, something a little bit different, but it is available for streaming on Peacock and Amazon Prime. So 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, had a $6 million budget and only made $17.5 million in the theaters, but it did have a theatrical release. So but very well received and very highly rated. So, and I think I speak for both of us when we say that we both very much enjoyed the movie. So, Daniel, how were you first introduced to the movie?
Um, so it was kind of like an accident, I guess. I was both doing research on, like, I know that Star Wars was heavily influenced by a lot of old samurai movies. And so I was doing just research on which ones George Lucas, like referenced the most, or which ones he said were most influential.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was also looking. I had just seen the movie Audition, and so I was looking for more movies by Takashi Miike, and this one was popped up, and it was very different. At the time, I was like, "This doesn't feel like the same vibe as his other movies," and it's not. But it was well reviewed, and so I just decided, well, let's give it a shot. Samurai movie. Even though this one obviously did not have an influence, the 2010 one did not have an influence on.
Are you sure this didn't
Yeah, I'm pretty
influence
sure.
the
I could
1980s?
I could double check my sources, but I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah, and I just decided to give it a shot. And I loved it.
Yeah. So, and I know we say every time Rotten Tomatoes is not the end all be all, but sometimes it can be a pretty good indicator for wanting to give something new a shot, right? Like,
Hmm.
for me, for this movie, I had never seen it before, and it was, Daniel. I full disclosure, Daniel and I share the creative ideas for this podcast, but I feel like I've influenced probably a couple of the last movies that we've done. So I asked Daniel, I was like, hey man, like, what are you feeling? What's the vibe? And, he was like, what if we did like a Japanese movie? And I was like, okay. So he sent me a list of like five or six and stumbled across this one, and it was 95% Rotten Tomatoes. It was an action movie. I think I did say, I was like, what if we did an action something? And,
Yeah, I think
um,
let's that was kind of like the jumping off point. I was like, let's do some action. And I was like, actually, there's some pretty legit like foreign action movies, and
yeah.
so
Yeah, and I think you gave me a good list, but I think once I saw that this one was very highly rated and it looked interesting, I was like, let's give it a shot, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was a really fun movie, and don't regret that choice. So sometimes you can trust those numbers to be pretty good indicators of what makes a good movie. So.
mhm. Yeah. And so yeah, so for those of you who don't know, which I feel like I should have done this at others, like a brief plot synopsis of the movies we're reviewing. I feel like we haven't done that, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have. So
We
like,
probably should do that for this one for
I
sure.
know we probably should because this one's probably less viewed. So
Hmm.
um, it's actually a pretty standard plot points for Japanese movies. There's a lot of different Japanese movies with the same sort of plot structure.
Hmm.
Like evil overlord, shogunate, somebody on a council is really bad, um, and a bunch of guys band together, probably guys who may or may not have been disgraced
13
or,
exactly.
huh?
So 13 exactly.
13 exactly. But there's seven. There's a movie with seven samurai,
Mm,
which that one was one that George Lucas mentioned he drew pretty heavily from, but
interesting.
that's neither
Sorry to
here nor
interrupt.
there. Um, so yeah, specifically 13, well, 12 samurai and a guy they found in the woods decide to band together to stop um, Lord, oh god, Narusugo.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I've got the cast list pulled up over here trying to get these names right, but
I have that too because this was tough, and this is a point I have later, but I'll save it.
right, yeah. Um, and yeah, so they band together to try to stop him
Yeah,
because he's not a great dude.
he's a really bad dude. He's a
Like
bad.
like Joffrey Baratheon, bad dude.
Honestly, that's a good comp. Yeah, not quite. Oh my gosh, what's the other guy that everybody hates in Game of Thrones?
Ramsey,
Yes, not quite Ramsay Bolton, but definitely Joffrey
yeah, not
Baratheon.
quite
So
Ramsey, definitely Joffrey.
definitely Joffrey. So first, before we get into like any like really like plot points or anything like that, besides the synopsis you gave, like what was your experience kind of like just watching a foreign film? Like what, I don't know, did anything stick out to you? Did you find anything interesting or anything like that?
I I think that I enjoy doing it. I really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
watching movies that I don't normally have access to.
Sure.
But I do find it difficult in that, it's culturally different. Like I don't know a lot about Japanese history. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like if it was a movie about the Revolutionary War, I might have had more context and it might have had a different impact. But I just don't know that. So it was difficult to know like how impactful some of the decisions and things were,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping up with names was difficult.
Agreed.
Um, I tried my best. I had the cast list up as I was watching the movie too. Um, and again, like I wish I'd known more about the history of this time period in which it takes place in, because I feel like that would add a little more context to it. So I enjoyed it, but there are things that do make it. Um, it can be challenging to watch a foreign movie, even if it's just a straight up action movie, which this one by and large is. It can still be hard to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was
Still
interesting.
enjoyable, but hard to follow.
Yeah, I thought talking about the historical timeline, I thought it was interesting that like they almost waited till the very end of the movie to talk about like they said the year that it happened, but I think they mentioned at the very end it was like 25 years later the shogun, that whole concept of government completely ended, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like, all right, like I guess you kind of need to wait till the end to tell that, but it would have been nice to have some of that context and knowledge. I'm definitely with you there. Um, I think one thing that I found interesting while watching it, I agree with you. I think it was a lot of fun just to try something different. I think one thing that was difficult for me, like when we watch any movie, we kind of latch on to like the main stars of a movie. Like we just both saw Dune Chapter 2, right?
Right.
Loved it, great movie. We know that Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Javier Bardem, like they're all going to be like main characters that we can pick out in a crowd, that we can know that they're going to be big characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Meanwhile, like watching this movie, like I had no idea who any of these actors are. Like meanwhile, somebody from Japan may be able to look at that and be like, I know exactly who that character is, and be able to latch onto it and be like, all right, this guy's going to be a main character for the movie. This guy, oh, he's a classic like secondary character, and he's going to be like something like this, and I found that
Right.
kind of interesting, and like you, sometimes hard to follow some of the characters. I think I was probably halfway or 2/3 in before I really understood. Like, all right, these are all the good guys. These are who I'm following,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the big fight scene. Like who do I need to really, really keep up with? So,
Right. Yeah. No, and I agree with that too. And that's a good point because, like you said, if I know who Jason Momoa is, I know who
mm-hmm,
Josh Brolin is. I've seen them
right.
in other movies, and I know what to expect when I see them. You
Mm-hmm,
know, and I can relate them to other films. I don't know who any of these people are.
yeah,
Not like in a bad way, but like
yeah,
they're and just like vice versa, somebody who's primarily watched Japanese cinema may not know who Timothy Chalamet is, or Austin Butler or whatever. So
yeah.
um, yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that's kind of the fun of it, right? You get to introduce to
Mm-hmm.
new people, new actors, and new characters. So, anyways, so all right. I have just a couple like random things that kind of like popped up just while I was watching. I thought like this is an action movie, so it's very gory, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of guts. However, I thought it was interesting like a few different times, and this means absolutely nothing for like the movie as far as like meaning or anything, I think. But I love the use of sound on occasion. I thought they did a really good job. Like in the very first scene, the opening when the guy's committing like arikari, right? He's killing himself. They don't show anything like, but the sound that they're able to use of him just kind of like opening his, he's
Right, like
literally
the focus
opening.
on his face and the sound design as well. It's like I didn't see it, but I knew that was brutal.
Yeah. And I thought like, kudos to the director, which I know you mentioned his name earlier, but I thought he did a really good job of using a lot of different elements to tell the story. Like, and it didn't have to be super gruesome all the time. It was
Hmm.
on occasion, but I thought there was
Yeah,
some fun stuff in there.
and it's just little stuff like that. Like one of the I wrote down to like in the very in the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's that scene where let me see if I can find his name. I don't want to get it wrong. You um, Hirayama has got the swords all lined up in
Mm-hmm.
that kind of gauntlet situation,
Yeah.
and he just takes them all out, right? Well, then he gets, he's done and he kind of gets back in that stance. Well, you don't really notice it. I didn't notice it the first time I saw it, but this time around, it's like there's a creek right next to him. And as he's sitting there, it's like you can see the blood slowly start to come into the creek as like he's getting ready to take on the rest of the guys. And I thought, like it's just little cinematography type things,
Mm-hmm.
like the thunder in the background too of the opening scene, like the
Yeah.
rain coming, the storm kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. All on a $6 million budget. Our guy was batting 1,000 with not a lot of resources. So kudos to him. One thing that I just decided to look up because I was intrigued, and I'm the son of a history teacher, was gunpowder use. So when they're kind of like when they're prepping to like get ready for the battle, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna need to work on our explosives." I was like, when did like how what I needed a timeline. I needed a timeline of gunpowder and explosives. So
Right.
I have a brief timeline for us here. Totally not important to the movie at all, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. So gunpowder was invented in China. So neighbor to Japan. I was sorry. Excuse me. First used in warfare in the year 904. So, pretty interesting there. It was introduced to the Middle East in about 1240 by the Mongols. The Mongols did a lot. If you're not familiar with the Mongol tribes, they're pretty interesting. You should know about them. Um, but yeah, about 1240, the first cannon was used in about 1260, and they also likely introduced the gunpowder and stuff like that to Europe as well. So our Mongol friends were passing all that technology everywhere. And then a lot of people got into it, started making muskets and a lot of different things. So it kind of like exploded after that. So I just thought that was some fun facts, some fun history things.
You and your puns.
Listen, I can't help
It
it.
exploded after that. I guess you could say it blew up. Oh my god.
Sorry. Anyways, so Gunpowder, fun stuff.
Um, there's two other little things. One, I like what's his name? I gotta have to check it again. The guy they found hanging out in the forest from the net.
Oh
What
yeah.
was his name?
Oh, Koyata, I
Yeah,
think.
I like his. He's just totally yeah, Koyata. He does not care about the samurai at all. Like his total disdain for him the whole time. He's like, God, y'all are the worst.
Y'all are so boring.
Yeah, he's like, y'all are so boring. All this honor and stuff like that, you know. And then like at the end, where he gets, spoilers, whatever. Like he's been ripped almost apart, And then at the
How
very
did
end, he
he
comes like hopping
survive?
down, and he's like, oh, whatever, no big deal. What are you gonna do?
I want
I
to
was
know
like,
how he lived. Didn't he get like a knife like through his jugular, like right there?
yeah, yeah.
I guess you can just
Um,
survive that.
Another thing I noticed, I and this is kind of nitpicky, but it is just certain some kind of funny, I guess, that I noticed. It was like they completely destroyed an entire village to kill one man.
Where did all the people go that
And they
lived in
didn't
that
even,
village?
I think it was even worse. It's like they destroyed they didn't even kill the guy until he crossed. They did everything they could to keep him from getting through the village, and he still got through. I mean, they still got him,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, so
Right.
great.
Spoiler.
But it's like you couldn't get him until, and I know plot armor to a certain extent too. Like there were times where like they were shooting arrows, and he was just like, oh, whatever. I
Right.
was like, this whole village, everybody who was here when they first came through is homeless now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
I still just want to know where the
but at
village
least he's
people
not going
went.
to be on the council, right?
So it's a win for everyone.
Right.
Um, I had two quick questions. Number one, did you watch the sub or the dub for this movie?
Sub.
Yeah, same. Do you like general? Like, do you have any feelings or thoughts towards subs versus dubs? I know, like you and I both watch. I think you probably a little bit more. I know we were talking about it the other day, like watching some anime. Like, are you a sub guy? Are you a dub guy?
I prefer sub. I think, but I do understand why people don't like it because there are times where I find myself reading more so than that. But
Yeah.
I feel like you don't get like some of the way the lines are delivered. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get that same feeling, like their voices, like you don't get the same delivery from somebody who's dubbed it as you would from somebody who's said it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I understand too, like sometimes at critical moments, like I find myself, I'm like trying to read, trying to do this or whatever. And you may or may not miss something. But for the for the full effect of like the line delivery, I prefer sub.
Yeah. Yeah. For the purity of the movie, I think it's hard to beat the sub version. Which,
Right.
if you were curious, if anybody's wanting to check this movie out after we're done, Amazon Prime has the sub version, and Peacock has the dubbed version. Because I started on Peacock, and I was like, this is dubbed and this is weird. Because I think you can do it right. Like there
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's funny to me. Like what I was watching, Squid Game came out a couple years ago, and some of those characters I think they dubbed really really well, and some of them they dubbed horribly.
Right.
Like the
Right.
lady that was in the prison or whatever, not prison, but in the game with them, so
Yeah.
annoying, dude. And her voice was just awful, right? And I was like, I don't want to watch that. But when it's done correctly, I think it can be a good. It makes it more accessible to some people who may not have watched it if that version was not available. So
Mm-hmm.
in those cases, I'm kind of pro dub, but I'm with you. I watched the sub version of this one. Um, One more short question: is this the best use of a flaming bull in a movie ever? Like when they release the flaming bulls in the
I
final
feel like it
battle
has to
scene.
be. I feel like it has to be.
Truthfully, I couldn't think of another time when it actually happened, but like when they released those three bulls just like running down the center
The
of
best
the
use of a flaming
of the
animal in a
village.
movie goes to 2010's 13 Assassins.
It's going to be a new category for us. Not actually. I don't think so.
I don't think we're going to watch another movie with flaming animals anytime soon. So,
Yeah. And I don't want PETA to come after us, so, you know.
yeah. I mean, we are a pretty big deal. So,
You know what? We're getting bigger and bigger every podcast. So,
that's true.
all right, let's hop into some categories and
Categories.
awards. So, number one, my favorite, has Dustin Robertson seen this movie?
No, he hasn't.
Do you think that he, like, and we say this a lot, I think he would actually, like, you're
This
talking
one,
about sub
I know.
versus
This
dubbed.
one for sure. I feel like other times it's like this would take some convincing to watch, but I feel like this one would take very little because it really is just it really is just an action movie
Yeah,
at the end of the
100%.
day.
Yep,
So,
yep. No, I'm talking about accessibility and like the sub versus dubbed. Like I don't think that Dustin would watch the sub version,
right,
but he would watch a good dub of this movie, and I think he would be like, "Wow, that was actually really good." So
right. Mm-hmm.
we just gotta find a good dub version. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
me and you could do it. We could just do all the voiceovers.
Do all of them.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be the guy in the net and the tree. Coyote.
I just want to be Shinzamon. I want to be the head guy.
You can, and I'll be
Thanks.
Harami. Is it Harami?
Which one was that?
Hirayama. The one I was just talking about in the easily the
Oh,
best one out of
the
everybody.
Ronin guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right, number two, the Disneyfication Award. Could this movie be made into a Disney or Universal theme park attraction? And if so, what kind?
Um, this I normally find a way to make this work, but I just don't see. I just don't see how you know we could implement the ritual suicide, the sword play, the Japanese politics. I just don't think we could integrate that well
You don't
into a
think an
theme park.
animated version of Mickey Mouse committing harikari would that would fly?
I'm gonna go with no. You would know better than me, but I'm gonna assume no.
It would not. I can confirm. Uh, I'm with you. I think this would be a tough stretch. I think of all the movies we've done so far, I don't think it's really doable. The only thing I could see is if it was part of the now defunct Backlot tour that used to be at Hollywood Studios, like maybe where you like went through the like that final village and just got to
Hmm.
see some of the special effects because some of those were good, like they were busting through walls and like they were like the gates were closing, like just to see some of those practical effects and things like that because I think that part of it was well done, but
Yeah, yeah.
that'd be the only way. So
Hmm.
little too risque for Walt Disney World and Mickey Mouse. All right. This was probably one of my favorite categories, trading places, monstars, whatever we want to call it. What if you could replace one character, one actor in this movie with any actor or actress in acting history? Who are you replacing and why?
See, this is where it's tricky for a movie like this, is because I I don't know that I would trade anybody.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't feel confident enough to with other actors from Japan to place them there. And I feel like I would just be picking American actors, and I feel like that just does a disservice to like a Japanese movie about the Japanese time period and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I don't know that I would, because I honestly do think that everybody played their part really well.
Yeah. And that's fair. I think only one person came to mind, and it was tough. Because like you, I don't know a lot of Japanese actors, but I do know one, and he's honestly kind of the token Japanese actor, Hiroyuki Sanada. He was in Westworld. He was in The Last Samurai. He's in the new Shogun TV show. He's like the main guy.
Yeah, I think most importantly though, he plays Scorpion in the new Mortal Kombat.
He was in the yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
Um,
you forgot
I
the most important role, but we'll let it slide.
we'll allow it. Okay, perfect. I was actually gonna place him in the role of the Ronin character.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
Because I think I really like Hiroyuki. I hope I'm saying his name right. If not, I sincerely apologize. I just think he's a really good actor. You know, he's been in some really good things. I didn't want to put him in a major role because, like you, I thought a lot of the actors did really well. I thought
Mhm.
he could have done like the Shinzaemon role well, but I really like that actor. I didn't want to take him out. But the Ronin character, I thought he was like their mentor, right? You know, they
Right.
called it master. They did some different things, and I just think he would have delivered that role. Like it would have been just a little bit more star power, maybe a little bit more charisma. Like again, that guy didn't do anything wrong, but I just think he would have been really fun in that role.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
All right. That's what I got.
All right, national treasure. If you could take any item or prop from this movie and take it for your personal collection, what are you taking and why?
Lord Naruto's hat.
Okay, I don't think I remember the hat, but tell me about it. Was it a
It's
pretty
like a.
hat?
It's like a. You know. It's like Kung Lao. Think Kung Lao.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know.
See, now I get that reference. There we go.
I feel like the obvious choice is any one of the 13 assassin swords. Obviously,
Yeah,
you know, but Naruto may have been a bad guy, but he dressed pretty well.
he did.
So,
He also, yeah. He had a cool hat.
well, he still has a cool hat.
I like the choice. I like it. And it's more creative than mine. I was super basic. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even care how basic it is. I just want any of the swords. I know you said it. I just want a sword. Like I spent fun story. I guess not a fun story, but I spent the better part of a whole trip to New York City when I was in high school, going around Chinatown, like just looking for a sword that I could buy to take home. I don't know where the obsession came from, but I just wanted a dope samurai sword to take and bring home. I didn't
Well,
I found one, but it wasn't that cool. So I want a samurai sword. I don't
well,
even
if you
care.
found a samurai sword in Chinatown, that's probably not the real thing. So,
Exactly. That's why I want one of these
you sound
because
like
this
me at
seems
Galaxy's Edge looking for the best legacy lightsaber. Gotta
yes.
find it.
Yep. Yep. So again, I don't even care. I want one of those. All right, hot date. Who are you? Again, this is up for interpretation. Hot date. Who you going out with? Who you hanging out with for a bro date? What's going on?
I'm gonna hang out with Koyata.
Same.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Or Hirayama, the Ronin. That would be a cool. I think he'd be cool to. Probably pretty intense, but I feel like he'd have some cool stories.
He's picking some
Shinzemon,
fights though.
obviously, also pretty cool.
Oh, I
Or
my
no, what's his name? His nephew,
the gambling
Shinrakuro.
guy. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they. I mean, we found him in a
A
brothel.
harem. Yeah. A
Yeah,
brothel. Yeah.
that guy's got to be a good hang, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I said Koyata, but I think that would also be a good choice. Yeah. I mean, the dude's hilarious. Like he was definitely the comedic relief for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But his head's in the right place. You know, I mean, he got kicked out of basically the other side because he was trying to hit on what's his face's wife. So I was like, all right, good for you, pal. Shoot your shot. Oh man. So All right. Yeah, there were not a lot of females in this movie for me to take out on an actual
Mm-mm.
date. The one we saw for the lengthiest period, this is not, I'm not going to say it. Never mind.
Well, it was, yeah, she was there to just really reinforce how dire the situation was, you know? Um and I think that was a pretty intense scene though,
Yeah.
realistically, you know?
Because we didn't actually say what happened. There's a moment in the movie where they're showing the brutality, and there's a character where she has had all of her limbs cut off.
Right.
So as a
Yeah.
basically some type of object or toy for what's his face. What a jerk. So that was wild. That was brutal. So
Mhm.
um, all right, go to word. Just overall best
Shinzemon.
performance. Shinzemon? Okay. Tell me why.
I feel like I mean I feel like there were people I could have picked other than that, but I guess in terms of like in my mind, like what is samurai? And again, I don't have a whole lot of context for what samurai truly means or is culturally, you know. But I feel like he embodied it the best while also being pragmatic enough to know that like there's going to be times where I'm going to have to bend this for the greater good of Japan or the community, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was like even like when him and Hanbei at the end are talking, you know, and he's Hanbei's really like samurai's here to defeat or no to defend their master, their lord.
Mm-hmm.
That's our job, point blank period. You know, but
Right.
Shinzemon's whole thing was like, but if he gets in the power, like the people as a whole are going to suffer,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's like you may be tasked with protecting your master, but realistically, what's the most, you know, if you allow certain things to happen, it's just going to turn out worse, you know.
Yeah. And I like that choice. Yeah. I think that's good. I think I chose Koyata, the Yusuke
Great.
Eseya
Mm-hmm.
actor, for the same reasons. Because I think he, while not a samurai necessarily, I thought he did a really good job kind of showing that, like the dichotomy, between,
Mm-hmm.
like, the average guy and what they would be able to accomplish, right? And kind of like humble the samurai in that way. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought his delivery was great. Again, I thought he was a funny character, very very charismatic and well played. So I thought he did a good job in showing the same theme. So
Mm-hmm.
lit. Oh, look at those lasers. Be jealous, buddy.
I can't do it.
Sorry, pal.
Just can't do it.
I believe in you. One of these days. All right. Last category. Freshest take. What you got?
This the final scene, and I don't say this lightly, and let me make it clear. I still think I prefer one over the other, but in terms of battle choreography, this rivals Helm's Deep to me and for me.
Just kidding.
I'm
I
just
almost
saying.
left.
I'm just
It was
saying.
good. No, you're right. You're right. I'm being
And
dramatic.
again, I prefer Helm's Deep. I will not. There's very few battles or even scenes that I would take over that.
Yeah.
And I prefer that one better. But as far as just like the way it flowed, you know, it's easy
Mm-hmm.
to draw out. It's easy to make an extended battle scene
Mm-hmm.
feel tiresome, feel
Mm-hmm.
tedious, you know? And I think, I guess, more so, maybe not better, but I feel like it did it as well as the Battle of Helm's Deep. Because the reality is, Battle of Helm's Deep in the movie is really, really long.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, but and it it was pretty long here too. But it did a good
I think
job
like
of
45
not
minutes, I think.
making it feel that way. And I feel like a lot of the characters got their own, you know, showcase. All 13 kind of got their own showcase in it, and there was a lot of different practical effects that I saw that go into it. I just thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I liked it even better the second time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good choice. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I had to note that it was I said truly epic battle sequence, great choreography and effects. So I'm with you. It was really well done. Um, I will not take the Helm's Deep and the Two Towers is still one of my favorite movies and sequences ever. So I don't think I would say that, but it was
Well, I
really,
had to
really,
put a
really well
reference
done.
in there. I can't say like great battle, you know,
That's true.
for reference.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It was good. Very well done.
Mm,
Yes, sir. Good choice. Good choice. All right. My freshest take is not a take, not my take necessarily. I took the take of the movie as the freshest take. The overall, I wrote down Samurai Suck as the because I think that because I think it is a theme of the movie. Like they don't straight up come out and say that, right? But there is a lot of commentary in the movie about the samurai code and about whether it's like valuable and whether it's
mm-hmm.
something to be, um, because it's often glorified, right? Like you go at samurai and like there's what was a video game that came out a few years ago? Oh my gosh,
Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, which great game, and great story and everything. But we look back in history and it's like, oh my gosh, like these were awesome, and a lot of times like they were, very respectfully, but um, there I thought this movie did a really good job kind of showing like the downfall of that the honor and pride and kind of living by
Mm-hmm.
that. And you touched on it earlier talking about like Shinsenmon, but it literally like starts the start of the movie is a guy committing arikari. You see it again later on in the movie by Yuki Makino after his son and his son's wife were murdered, and like he's standing up to Naratsugu on the bridge. Um, you talk about Hanbei. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Hanbei. He hated Naratsugu like a couple different times. Like he was like, this guy's dumb. Like what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing is gonna like end to the death of the people. But he was willing to like stand up for and like kill other people because of the honor and because of the just the weight of being a samurai. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought the movie kind of did a good job of talking about how it was an archaic thing that used to
Right.
exist. So,
Yeah. No, you're right. It's often romanticized, just like a lot of stuff in film and like literature. It just gets
hmm
legendary and romanticized, and like a lot of like another thing that came to mind, because a lot of westerns and the samurai movies kind of play off each other
hmm
thematically and that kind of thing. It's like a lot of times like the American West can be the same way, but the
hmm
reality is it was just the Wild West is not just like a theme. Like it was lawless out there. Like you could
yeah,
do whatever you wanted. It
yeah,
was not that cool.
right,
And like you said, like the reality is, like, if you were to truly follow the samurai way, you don't have anything.
right,
Everything you have realistically belongs to your lord, and
hmm
it's your job, agree or disagree, to protect that guy,
right,
whether you like him or not.
right. Like when they went into battle, they were like, "Are you guys ready to lose your lives?" And it's like, shoot, like it's game time.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether you actually want to or not. So that was my freshest take from the movie. I thought it was really well done. Really, yeah. So that does it for our categories, awards, and most of our commentary. Dan, anything else from the movie we didn't talk about? Anything else that you noticed the second time watching that you didn't notice the first time?
Um, Not really. No, but I would encourage anybody who does decide to watch this or any foreign movie, really, you know, go into it with like an open mind and realize that like
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna view like an American movie,
Yeah.
and it's not meant to. Um, and even today, like as we're talking, I'm like I almost feel bad for like butchering some of these names and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and that's okay too, like the fact is like do something different, and if it's historical, like look into it, like read a little bit more. Like I really did. I wish I knew more, but I tried to look up like the Edo period, and
Mm-hmm.
the Shogunate and that kind of thing, and like the different history of it, because I do feel like the Harakiri, the samurai, and all that kind of thing. If you know more about them, the movies make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for any form. Anytime you try to view something outside of your own cultural sphere, go into it with an open mind, and if you don't understand something, look it up.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But as far as I guess looking the second time around, I enjoyed it as much this time as I did the first time. I really did. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
I don't have any other notes, but I will say, kind of alluding to and looking back at a couple episodes, and we've talked about it a few times. Like, one of the goals of this podcast is to get people to watch something different, that you wouldn't typically watch. So, Daniel, as you were saying, like, take an open mind, right?
Mhm.
Like go in if any of this movie sounded interesting to you, like I would encourage you, like give it a shot. It can be intimidating. It's definitely different, but I thought the plot was super simple. It's like the action sequences were exciting. There was comedy. There was good dialogue. Like it was a really well made movie and really well put together. And like there's some really 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 good stuff out there. Take a shot, take a chance. So,
Mhm.
but that's all I got. I think that's all we got. So as always, unless Dan, if you got anything else, like again, appreciate all of you guys tuning in so far to the pod, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, wherever. We would appreciate so much like the number of people who've tuned in. Like it's exciting, I think, for Daniel and I, just to kind of like I'm checking almost every other day just to kind of see, because I don't
Yeah.
know, it.
I am too. Even though I'm like realistically, like how big is it gonna get? But like it's just fun,
Yeah.
It's fun. We're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always, I don't think we did it for number. I can speak, I think I can speak for both of us in that we didn't do it for
Yeah,
numbers, but it is
for
fun
sure.
to see something. It is fun to talk about something you're passionate about and see it get reciprocated in like
Yeah.
views and people talking about it and comments and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And with that, like, we'd love to engage with our listeners on, online. I know, like, I have people at work coming up to me and being like, "Hey, I listened to the pod," and like that was, it just being able to talk to people about that. But I know also realistically that not all of our listeners are going that route. So please do engage with us. Chat us up, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Again, appreciate all the support and what we've had so far. So that's all I got. Now
Now this
this
is
is
podcasting.
podcasting. We're gonna
Yes.
get that someday.
One day we're gonna say it at the same time.